Hello everyone. Today we will see the property of continuous functions defined on a closed and bounded rectangle. All of you know in your second year in Riemann integration of function of a single variable, which was a function defined on a closed and bounded interval AB in R. So if f is continuous function defined on such a closed interval AB, then f is always integrable. Okay, so you have proved this property of continuous function for function of single variable. Here the domain of the function was a closed interval, especially closed and bounded interval in R. Now the domain is also a closed interval or closed and bounded interval, but it is in R2. Okay, so this was also true for closed interval in R, and now you have to prove it for a closed interval in R2. Okay, now let us see a function f whose domain is, that is f is from D to R. Okay, f is a function defined on a closed rectangle D. Okay, so suppose D is this rectangle, f is a continuous function, okay, defined on this rectangle. Now in first year also you have studied the properties of continuous functions defined on a closed interval in R. So if f is continuous function defined on closed interval, then f attains its bounds. So what you have learnt is every continuous function defined on a closed and bounded interval always attains its bounds. That is true in case of function of one variable, and you have proved all these things. Okay, so our f is a function defined on also a closed and bounded interval. So same property is true if f is continuous function defined on closed rectangle or closed interval in R2, then it also attains its bounds. Attains its bounds means it has a supremum and it has a infimum. Okay, now one more property that you have learned, if in second year you have learned, if f is continuous function defined on a closed and bounded interval, then f is always uniformly continuous. It is uniformly continuous. Okay, every continuous function defined on a closed and bounded interval is always uniformly continuous. Here also our function is continuous function defined on closed and bounded interval. So our function has the same property. Okay, so it attains its bounds. That means it has a supremum and infimum being continuous function, and also being continuous function, it is also uniformly continuous. Okay, now what is the speciality of uniform continuous function? Difference between continuous function and uniformly continuous function. In continuity, so a function, you know, a function f is continuous at a point at P if for any epsilon greater than 0 there exists delta greater than 0 such that you know this is less than delta implies mod of f of x minus f of p less than epsilon. Whenever x is very close to p, then its image f of x is close to image of p. We say that function is continuous. Here choice of delta depends not only on epsilon but on the choice of the point also. So choice of delta depends on choice of epsilon and the point also. Okay, so that is local continuity. In uniform continuity, this choice of delta does not depend on the point, whatever may be the point p here p, q, z, any x, y, any. Okay, choice of delta depends only on epsilon. Okay, so whatever may be p, so that means whatever may be p. So suppose p is any y. Okay, whenever y is close to x or whenever x and y are close to each other, their images are close to each other. So mod of fx minus fy less than epsilon. Okay, so this is what is uniform continuity. So in uniform continuity, whenever any two points in the domain are close to each other, their images fx and fy in the codomain, they are close to each other. So choice of delta depends only on epsilon and not on the choice of the point. Okay, so that is what uniform continuity. So our function being defined on a closed and bounded interval, though it is in R2, it is also uniformly continuous. So see friends, my function f from D to R has two properties. That is, it attains its bounds, means it has a supremum and infimum on D, and it is uniformly continuous. Okay. Now let epsilon greater than 0 be given any arbitrary number, and suppose A is area of D. Then what is A? A is equal to, being rectangle, it is B minus A into D minus C. Okay. So as this is the area of a rectangle, it is always greater than 0, because we are not considering A is equal to B and C is equal to D. So it has always, A is always greater than 0. Okay. Obviously A greater than 0. As f is continuous function defined on closed and bounded interval, it is uniformly continuous. Therefore, by definition of uniform continuity implies for any given epsilon greater than 0, there exists delta greater than 0 such that for any 2 points, xy, and suppose I will take another point uv from D, as D is a subset of R2. Okay, so one order pair xy belongs to D and order pair uv belongs to D. So for any 2 points in D, whenever the distance between these two, so distance in R2 is denoted by, it is nothing but norm. So norm of xy minus uv, whenever it is less than delta, that means whenever these 2 points are close to each other, their images in codomain. What is the codomain? This function is from D to R, so their f of xy is a real number, f of uv is a real number. So, and distance between real numbers is, it is given by modulus. Okay, so this should be less than epsilon, as you know. This should be smaller. If they are close to each other in the domain, their images should be very close to each other in the codomain. Okay, now this should be less than epsilon. For the sake, I will take here, this is less than epsilon upon A. I am not taking anything wrong. This should be less than epsilon. Whatever I have taken, is it less than epsilon? Yes. Epsilon upon A for any positive A is always less than epsilon. Okay, so epsilon is very, very small positive real number, and distance between them is still less than that number. So we can consider, we have a liberty to take it as less than epsilon by A also. Okay, so suppose this is some equation star. So because of the property of continuous function defined on a closed and bounded interval being uniform continuous, so I have this. So for any 2 points in D, any 2 points on D, whenever they are very close to each other, their images are close to each other. Now, as usual, now we partition the rectangle D. In double integral how to partition a rectangle. So suppose P1 and P2 are the partitions of respectively AB and CD, given by, P1 is A is equal to x0 less than x1 and so on. I will not write now in detail. So it is, suppose XL is equal to B, as already you know, and suppose P2 is C is equal to Y0 less than Y1 and so on and so on. So suppose here is less than Yj minus 1 less than Yj. Here we will take variable as I. Okay, then just less than Xn is equal to D. So suppose these are the two partitions of AB and CD respectively. Then all of you know P is equal to P1 cross P2, which is set of all xi yj such that xi belongs to P1, first belongs to P1 because it is a Cartesian product, and yj belongs to P2, where I runs from 0 to L, j runs from 0 to N. Okay, so this P is a partition of rectangle D, and this P divides this partition divides rectangle D into how many subrectangles? All of you know, here there are L number of points in the partition, here there are N. So into how many subrectangles? L into N subrectangles Dij with, we assume that their area is with their area Aij. So each Dij, so there are Ln subrectangles, each having area Aij. You know what is Aij? Aij is equal to xi minus 1 into yj minus 1. That is what the area of Dij is. Now, there are Ln subrectangles having area Aij. Now come to our function. We have used one property that it is continuous and hence it is uniformly continuous. Now we will use another property that if it is a continuous function defined on a closed and bounded interval, then it attains its bounds, means it has a supremum and it has a infimum. Okay. So suppose as f is continuous function defined on D, it attains its bounds on D. Therefore, it has a supremum and infimum on D. Okay. So if it attains its bounds on D, okay, then it attains its bounds on each Dij. As the function attains its infimum and supremum on whole of D, it will attain its bounds on each Dij. Suppose capital Mij and small mij are the supremum and infimum of f on Dij. That means at some point of Dij, function has its supremum value capital Mij, and at some point of Dij, function has infimum value. Suppose there are 2 points Ai Bj and Ci Dj belonging to Dij such that function attains supremum value, function attains its supremum value at Ai Bj and function attains its infimum value at Ci Dj. Okay. So as these are the 2 points from Dij, such that one of the point function has a supremum and another point it has a infimum. So this is the property of the given function. So Mij and Mij. Obviously, as we know, this supremum is always greater than or equal to Mij. Okay. So obviously Mij, capital Mij being the supremum, always greater than or equal to its infimum. Therefore, Mij minus Mij will be greater than or equal to 0. It is a non-negative number, their difference, okay, because these are the supremum and infimum value of the function. Function is real valued, so these are the real numbers, okay. Now, see what is this difference. This is equal to, as it is non-negative, so their modulus is the same, right? Modulus of it, this is a non-negative number, this difference is a non-negative real number, so its difference, this difference will be a non-negative number, that means its modulus will be the number itself. Okay, so but this is equal to, what is this? This is value of the function at Ai Bj, and this is value of the function at Ci Dj. Ai Bj and Ci Dj, these are any 2 points from Dij, and Dij, this is a subset of D. any small part of D. Dij is a small part of D, and for all points in D, what is true is, for all points in D, what is true is, whenever the 2 points are very close to each other, their images are very close to each other. These are also AI, Bj and Ci, Dj are also any 2 points from D itself, because they are from Dij. So if the 2 points AI, Bj and Ci, Dj from Dij, if they are close to each other, then their images will be close to each other by this property 1, property star. Okay, so what I will assume is, now suppose, what we will assume is, suppose norm of P is less than delta. Norm of P. What do you mean by norm of P? You know, here partition of this rectangle will be sub-rectangles, and in a sub-rectangle, norm means maximum distance between any 2 points of any Dij. So if I consider this as Dij, then the maximum distance will be the diagonal distance, either this distance or this distance. Okay, so what we assume is, suppose norm of P is less than delta, suppose maximum distance from this is less than delta. So, and these two AI, Bj and Ci, Dj are after all the points from Dij. If I assume that norm of P is less than delta, that means supremum distance between any 2 points from a sub-rectangle is less than delta. Norm, in case of one variable, we have learned, if it is interval AB and its partition we consider as sub-intervals, then maximum length of a sub-interval. Here, sub-rectangle, so maximum length, maximum distance between any 2 points of the sub-rectangle. Okay, so, and this distance may be a diagonal distance. So, even if AI, Bj is here, Ci, Dj is here, so what we assume is, suppose norm P less than delta, so that distance between any 2 points, we are assuming that it is less than delta. For all other points from Dij, for all other points from Dij itself, this is true. Okay, so suppose norm P less than delta, then what I will get is, if norm P less than delta, then distance between, this implies, yes, norm of or distance between AI, Bj and Ci, Dj will also be less than delta, because this is maximum distance between any 2 points of a sub-rectangle. We assume that this is less than delta. So if this is less than delta, these are any 2 points from Dij, so distance between them will be obviously less than delta. Okay, if this is less than delta, then that implies by property star, whenever any 2 points are close to each other by a distance less than delta, then this implies f of AI, Bj minus f of Ci, Dj will be obviously less than epsilon by A. So norm P less than delta implies distance between any 2 points of Dij less than delta, but by this property, it implies that distance between their images should be less than epsilon by A. So therefore this our equation double star will now become, equation double star will imply now, what does it imply? It implies that Mij minus Mij will be less than this is equal to this is less than epsilon by A whenever norm P less than delta, or I may write this as norm P less than delta implies capital Mij minus small mij less than epsilon by E. So this is what we have now proved. Okay, so difference between these two numbers is less than epsilon by A. Now to prove that function is Riemann integrable, you know the Riemann's criteria for a function of one variable. What is the Riemann criterion? A function f is Riemann integrable if and only if for any epsilon greater than 0 there exists delta greater than 0, such that whenever norm of P for any partition P, norm P less than delta, then UFP minus LFP is less than epsilon. You might be knowing this. Norm of P for any epsilon greater than 0, there exists delta greater than 0 such that for any partition P of that there was the domain was AB. Here is AB cross CD. Okay. Whenever norm of P less than delta means norm of P less than delta means the distance between any 2 points from a subrectangle, or here subinterval was less than delta means supremum length is also less than delta of the subinterval. This implies UFP upper sum minus lower sum is less than epsilon. So that is what you have proved in Riemann's criterion. So if you assume that norm P less than delta, so here also you want to prove that upper sum minus lower sum is less than epsilon. So our aim is now UFP minus LFP less than epsilon. Okay. So now consider, to prove that F is integrable, consider UFP minus LFP. Now by definition, what is this? UFP minus LFP by definition, yes, it is summation, double summation, upper sum for a function f up to variable. It is I is equal to 0 to L, J is equal to 0 to N, you know, capital Mij into, there we have considered area as delta Ij in function of, in case of double integral. Here we have considered area as of subrectangle Dij as Aij minus summation. This is I runs from 0 to L, J runs from 0 to N, small Mij, Aij. Okay, so this is the lower sum of function f and upper sum of function f. So this minus this. Now this is equal to double summation I, J runs from 0 to N, I runs from 0 to L. So if you simplify this, what you get is summation is over same I and J, so this is Aij. But if norm P is less than delta, this difference is less than epsilon by A. So this is less than epsilon by A into Aij. This I runs from 0 to L, J runs from 0 to N. Now this epsilon by, we'll take it as outside. So epsilon by A, epsilon by A, double summation Aij. I runs from 0 to L and J runs from 0 to N. Now what is this? This is the area of a subrectangle Dij. And if you vary I and J, what you will get is, this will be sum of areas of all the subrectangles, and that will give you total area of the rectangle. What is total area of the rectangle? Total area of the rectangle, we have taken it as A. So this is what is epsilon. And this is true. This is epsilon, this is less than epsilon by A. You know, whenever norm P is less than delta, that is what is our assumption. Okay. So norm P less than epsilon, less than delta. Thus, for any epsilon greater than 0, there exists delta greater than 0, such that whenever for any partition P having norm P less than delta, what I have proved is UFP minus LFP is less than epsilon. So that means, see once again what I am telling, for any epsilon greater than 0, there exists delta greater than 0 depending only on epsilon, such that whenever I consider a partition P of D, norm P less than delta implies UFP minus LFP less than epsilon, and this will tell us that by Riemann's criterion, F is integrable on D. Therefore, every continuous function defined on a closed and bounded interval in R2, that is a rectangle D in R2, is always integrable. Thank you very much.